Good morning, guys. I am super excited to be interviewing a lovely author today. Her name is Breezy Jones, and I'm super excited to have the chance and opportunity to talk to her. This will be the first time that I'm meeting her, but I did a little bit of research, and this girl is on point. I love her graphics, I love her covers, I love her concepts. She recently released an anthology called Once Upon an Academy, and it's a whole pile of different authors, but she's not only created an anthology, she's created an entire world around it and a system and a concept, and I can't wait to ask her a little bit more about that. Now, her first book's only been out for about a year and a half now, so she's still a little bit fresh, but Breezy has been in the industry for a long time. She's been around for about 7-8 years on the outside of the writing world. She's been the supporter, she's created groups, she's created events, and she's just been a phenomenal person in the industry for a long time. So it's super exciting that she decided to take the leap and become an author herself, and it's definitely paid off. I cannot wait to meet Breezy. So let's just get into it. Let's go say hi to Breezy. Come on, guys. Well, everyone, I am here with the amazing Breezy. So thank you so much for joining me today, Breezy. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm fabulous as always. So my first question, and I had to double check with you the name of it. What is it like to live in Homosassa in Florida? Did I
Yeah.
say it right?
Yes, you said it right.
Amazing.
It's Homosassa is a very, very small town. It's a big tourist area though, so it's absolutely beautiful to visit. But living here is not my favorite. I wouldn't recommend people living here unless you're retired. But for like young people and stuff, there's just not much to do. There's bars. There's a lot of bar restaurants, and that's about it. But we hope to one day move to Savannah, Georgia. That's kind of my dream place to go to. So one day we'll get out of Homosassa, but it's a nice little town though. It's very small.
What makes it touristy? Is it like lots of, rainforest stuff
Um,
around or?
it's right on the Gulf on the water, so you have a lot of like boat tours and manatee tours, and we have like a small like animal sanctuary kind of area that you can go and visit and see the animals. We actually have a hippo that is a Florida resident now because he's been with them for so long. So we all got together and I guess signed a petition to allow him to become a Florida state resident. But so there's a lot of stuff like that, mainly to do like with the water and that kind of stuff. Lots of restaurants, like I said, restaurants and bars and that kind of stuff. Very small town feel to it too.
So what gave you the inspiration to write your first book, Winter's Rise, and how did you find the self-publishing process?
Well, originally, I had read Divergent, and the ending of it made sense to me, and I understood why the author chose the ending that she did for that, but it wasn't the ending that I wanted. So I rewrote it for myself, and then a couple of people were like, "You should write," and I laughed out loud completely because I was never an English kind of person. I struggled, especially when I was young, with English and reading and that kind of stuff. I was in extra tutoring for it, and I hated it as a kid. So I never imagined myself as a writer. But eventually, people like my mom especially wore me down and asked me to start writing. So I had originally decided I was going to write a sci-fi, and I had it all figured out and plotted out, and NaNoWriMo was coming up in November. And my mom wanted me to do NaNoWriMo, and I wasn't sure about it, but I was like, okay, why not? Let's give it a shot. And right before Nano started, like a week or two before, someone I had reached out to help kind of plot out my story, so I had it ready to start writing, was like, you don't have a plot here at all. And so I completely scrapped it and was like, all right, for NaNoWriMo, I'm just going to write a complete cliche Christmas story, just so I'm writing something for Nano. And I ended up that being Winter's Rise, which the original that I wrote for Nano was completely different than the actual final product. It was a mess. I killed the same character like 4 times. I ended up hating my original love interest, and which was originally Jack Frost, and I hated him. So I gave him a sex change and made him a woman, and picked a completely different character in the book to be the love interest for this story, and gave Jack Frost her own kind of little side story in the story. So, or side character, I guess, in the story, instead of as a main romance. But that one ended up being my baby, I guess. So that's how I got there.
That's really cool. So the person that you gave it to, who gave you feedback that you didn't have much of a plot for your sci-fi, were they already a professional in the industry, or were they like a friend, family member?
Yes, they were already professional in the industry. I guess had gotten to know a lot of authors and writers and stuff long before I started writing myself, just because my mom is very big with the author industry. She does Books, Coffee, and Crafts, which is, I guess, a Facebook group, which has grown into other Facebook groups and things like that.
I know her group.
Yes, yeah. Actually, I think that's how I met you, was you did a party or something with her, or with other authors with her, and she did planning for online parties for a while. So, and I would help out with that and do graphics and things like that for her. And so I got to know a lot of the authors. So when I started writing, I had a couple that I was really close with, and kind of would reach out to and be like, what am I doing?
So how long did it take you then? So you wrote for Nano, and then when you changed your character for Jack Frost into a woman, which I absolutely love, and then you changed the love interest. How long was that period from when you had your original draft for Nano and then you changed it? And how did you actually find like the steps to self-publishing? Were there certain things that you didn't expect or you struggled with, or because you'd already sort of been around the industry for a while, you kind of breezed through?
It took me altogether about 2 years. Like I said, the original draft took the month of Nano to write, but getting it from that to its final project took about 2 years. I had been going to these book events with my mom a lot, and like Indie Book Fest and things like that, that they have a lot of panels that will help talk about how to get published and what you need to do, what to look for an editor if you want to do indie publishing versus traditional publishing, and the pros and cons to both of those. So a lot of it I learned through panels, and then some of it I learned through other authors once I realized that this was something that I wanted to do and was serious and trying to do. I just kind of networked and talked to a bunch of people and got their opinions, and asked kind of traditional questions, like if there was advice that you could give to a new author, what would that be? Things like that. So I pieced it together little by little. And there was still a lot that people just never really mention through the publishing process, like how to copyright your novel, and that is an actual thing that you have to go and file for. I did not know that until almost a couple months after my book had actually been published, and I was like, oh my god, how did I not know that I'm supposed to do this, and ended up having to go find it. So some things were, I learned from other people or from being at book events and things like that, and learning and panels and stuff, to just having to find the information for myself online after finding out that's what I needed to do.
That's amazing. I love that I think 2 years from draft to actual publication is a really good time, because I know a lot of people, because they're so excited to get their work into the world and it's exciting, and so they rush into it, and then they find there's a lot of amendments they need to make afterwards. And I love too that even like things with the copyright, like there's so many things that you don't realize you need to put into it. And then I did the same. Like I was like, what's an ISBN? I don't understand. Small things that people probably don't realize we have to do. There's so many nitty-gritties in it. So that's really cool that you did all the workshops beforehand.
I tried to. I didn't want to mess it up. There were still things that, you learn after publishing, like with the copyright, but I tried to really, I wanted to give it justice and do it right. I didn't want to just rush something out there, and made sure I invested in it becoming a career. So I didn't want to, but there were things along the way that, make it the journey that, I think all authors really should have to, or not really should, but do have to go through in one way or another.
So I want to talk about hobbies. So you do a lot of graphic design work. So I loved your website. I came across your website, absolutely loved it. And you've done your own logo. You've done the cover for Once Upon a Time, was it? Once Upon a Academy, sorry. And then your husband actually did the typography for your book and your formatting as well. So I'm curious as to, did you guys study in that field, or was it a hobby that you were just passionate about and built on? And how did you feel about having your husband help you with your work?
Neither of us went to school for graphics or anything like that. Actually, my husband has a master's in cognitive psychology, which is a very different aspect than any of this. And I went to school for event planning, but I didn't finish my degree. I dropped out because I hated it. I actually just kind of stumbled upon graphics. Mainly my mom, with her books, coffee, and crafts, just needed help with certain things, and I found that I really enjoyed it and was good at it, and researched how to do a lot of it and things like that, and would learn as I go, kind of thing, and just got better and better. It's the same thing kind of with my website. I didn't get into that kind of stuff until after I published, because that's part of being an author, or not after I published, but after deciding I was going to publish. It's something that you just have to have, as a website and that kind of stuff. And to hire someone for that stuff is very expensive. And so when I decided to publish, my husband and I sat down and kind of budgeted where we want to hire, like with a cover or editing and things like that, and where we want to try to do ourselves. So we kind of went at it in that angle. And he had, once upon a time, worked at a publishing house for a very short time right before we moved back to Homosassa. So he knew a little bit about the publishing industry and formatting and that kind of stuff. So he decided to delve into that aspect of just formatting originally, while I dug into the writing and the website and that. And originally my website was a mess. WordPress is very hard to use at first when you don't know what, you don't know all the terminology. It seems simple, but it's actually really confusing. And so I ended up having to do a ton of research to figure out how to get my own hosting and things like that, which it confused me even more. But eventually we put the work into it and got it where I wanted it. And just kind of, like I said, stumbled into it. And eventually with my husband, he went from formatting to wanting to get into graphics himself, because he enjoys the creative aspect of formatting, especially like with print. You can get creative with, the different things that you want to do on the inside of your novel. And so he enjoyed that and decided to try to look in other avenues, and found that he was also really good at it and enjoyed doing it. So we work well together, and I enjoy sharing that with him. Like, it gives us something that we can do together, that we both enjoy and can get into, and what he does better, I don't do very well, and what I do better, he doesn't do very well. So we balance each other out very well, and it just works beautifully.
And I absolutely love that, because clearly straight from the start, hubby was very supportive of you.
Oh, yes.
Your mother was as well, but that's amazing. And then you have time, like, you use this as a project. I actually, to be honest, I really haven't heard of many authors who, obviously family supports them, but I haven't heard of any family members or partners being so hands-on in it as well. And it's beautiful to hear.
It is. My husband is, from the beginning, has been my biggest cheerleader, and just kind of, whatever your dreams are, I'll support you and help you get there. And I don't think that without that, I don't think I ever would have done this, because it's a very intimidating thing to do, to jump into your own career, especially knowing that it's an expensive thing to do, and very technical in a lot of ways, and there's a lot of different aspects of business that you have to learn being indie published. So it was very scary. I don't think I would have jumped into it if I didn't have his support, because he's he's been amazing throughout the whole process and continues to be, and has always just been that if this is what you want, then we'll make it happen kind of guy. And I love him for that with everything.
So I guess following the question then of talking about hobbies, you have some interesting ones. You like to paint dolls, so that's a very specific hobby. So I want to know, how did you get into that? Why? What? I've never met anyone who does that, so I'm very intrigued by it, because immediately I just think of the scary dolls you see in like somebody's grandma's house. So I'm wondering if it's like that. Are you the doll painter for that? And also you
No.
make makeup too. So let's talk hobbies.
Okay. With that, I honestly I can't fully remember how I got into it exactly. I think I just saw an image on Google or a video or something of someone else doing it and thought, oh my God, how amazing it would be to create my characters from my novels into dolls. I don't have any right here with me that I could show you. I should have probably grabbed one, but I take Monster High dolls. Have you heard of those?
Yeah.
They're like a kid's doll, kind of like a Barbie doll, and I liked their aesthetic, the way that they're originally designed, the best. I think they're really pretty and cute. So I essentially tear them apart and redo them. And when I started getting into that, originally I figured that would be way outside my realm and would be really hard to do, but it's actually very simple. It's very tedious work, especially like rerouting the hair and things like that, but it's essentially just taking acetone to take off the original paint and redrawing it with colored pencils and pastels and things like that. So it's actually really easy to do. The concept of it, I mean, you have to be a little bit of an artist, I would imagine, but it's pretty easy. The hardest part is sewing the clothing. I try to buy already made clothing off Etsy and things like that as much as possible, because I hate sewing with a passion. And it's always a very bloody job for me. I end up stabbing myself more than I don't. So I try to avoid that as much as I can, but sometimes you just can't find already made what you want in your mind for that doll. So I've had to learn how to do that as well. But I try to make one for each of my dolls, especially for signings and things like that. I give away a doll that goes with the character from my book, like Winter's Rise or Frostbites, to give away at like signings and events and things like that I do. Sometimes I'll do one for a release or on my website, just a random giveaway sometimes too.
That is so cool. Okay, so it's not Grandma's Creepy Dolls. It's not what I was envisioning
No.
at all.
No. Though my husband, he does joke with me and call me Sid, because during the process you will see dolls with no head hanging from various aspects of my house while they dry. But no, it's not the creepy, horror dolls or anything like that. They're small Barbie dolls that I do.
That is so creative though, to do that. And then also like that's such a great unique marketing tool as well for you, because like as you said, you take them to signings and events and you give these away. So okay, now that I understand the concept, so I always wanted to do with my Token Huntress series, it's my vampire series, and when she wakes up, when she's been kidnapped by Chase, the main vampire, he has those bobblehead dolls? He has a collection. So she wakes up and there's just a whole pile of those chattering, and she's like, what is happening? Like it's super eerie. And I always wanted to create bobblehead dolls of my characters because it's very specific to my main character.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, and I personally couldn't do what you do, but I love that you've done that, and that's so unique. I've never seen any other author do that.
Well, thank you. And definitely it fit really well into my branding, so I'm glad I had stumbled into it, but I like it. I like to be able to, create things like that. I like, I don't know, pretty pictures and characters and stuff like that. I will play a game for hours on the Xbox just to create a character. So I enjoy that kind of thing, and being able to do it for my books just adds that much more excitement to me. So I enjoy it.
And you've also put as one of your hobbies, you love makeup. So let's talk. Yeah. I'm curious, is this a tattoo or is this makeup, the star?
This is now a tattoo, though I drew it on my face for, God, years and years. I think I first started drawing it when I was about 9 or 10, give or take. One of my friends, when I was a little girl, had a star birthmark, almost a perfect star right there. And she was kidnapped from my front yard. So I just started drawing it on in memory of her, kind of thing. No, now it's a tattoo. It's permanent there. Though with makeup, anytime I put on makeup, I have to redraw it because, foundation and stuff covers all that up. So, which is ironic because I got it tattooed so I didn't have to draw it, and now I still have to draw it. But yes, I absolutely love makeup. I spend way too much money in makeup. I will do my makeup just for fun and take it off 10 minutes later. I like trying new looks and that kind of stuff. I actually have a friend who I usually room with when I go to book events, and she calls me her makeup squad because I do her makeup throughout the whole event.
Am I, and you can say no because it's obviously a very personal subject. Mm-hmm. Can I ask a little bit about your friend that was kidnapped or no?
Oh, no, that's totally fine. Honestly, I was very, very little when it happened, so I don't remember a whole lot even about her. I just remember she was my best friend when I was little. Her family lived in the same house as us, but we had like the top level and they had the bottom level. So I remember her, and I remember playing with her, and I remember we were inseparable. And of course I remember the star tattoo, or the star birthmark. It's been so many years since it happened. I honestly couldn't tell you that much about her or the event. I think my mom had said it was her biological mom who had came and taken her from our yard, which was how she was able to do so. But legally, I don't think she was supposed to have her, and I never saw her again after that. So
I think you're amazing. That star is so I find like people who get tattoos on their face always think, no, why? Because they're usually like very horrific, or like they're tears, or they've got like McDonald's to their forehead or something. But I actually like the subtlety of yours. Like, I think it's very much you in a sense. And after speaking to you for a while, I can see how unique and creative you are, and I love it. And to hear that sentimental value to it as well is just, you're such a beautiful soul, genuinely. You're amazing.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I always joke that I started the trend because, like I said, I've been drawing it on my face since I was a little girl, and now it's become very popular with music artists and things like that. They have like the heart, or I've seen even a star similar to mine on some of them, and I always joke with people it was me who started that, but for very different reasons. And I never went to jail. I didn't let nobody draw on my face like that.
So I want to talk about your website more because, as I said, I checked it out and I loved it. There's so many websites out there that are meh, or very straightforward, gives you information, and yours straight away is boom, 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 amazing graphics, amazing font, and I could get a feel for you straight away. That I was like, wow, this girl is out of the box. She's very creative. And then you do blog posts. You did your office, a photo of your office, which I fell in love with, as I said before. You can see a bit of the back now, and it's beautiful. And I even actually hopped on, there was not a test, but what character are you from your book? And I ended up getting Lexi, which is pretty cool. So I'm a badass human. But I was wondering, how did you find, obviously you said you went through WordPress and you found it very difficult. Did you come up with the idea for what character are you, and did you do that yourself?
Well, for the game specifically, you see them on Facebook all the time, take a test to, find out what color personality you have or something like that. And I remember telling my husband one day, I really want to figure out how to do this. It would be so cool to be able to offer that to readers, because when, with my books, I've worked really hard to not just write a book, but to create an entire world for readers to get into in different aspects, and I want to grow it more and more. And the same thing with my anthology. It's not just an anthology of stories, it's an entire world. You have a website and a newsletter and different aspects that you can get into that world and into that character through that. So I wanted something like that for Winter's Rise, and told my husband I need to figure out how to do this. So I Googled for hours and found a website, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I can find it for you. And it's something like Woo, I want to say WooCommerce, but that has to do with something else with WordPress. But something like that. And it allows you to create your own games like that. And it's not expensive. I think it's like $15 a month or something like that. And it has different options that you can do. You can do a game like I created for that one, or you can do different like connect things. Like, so if you choose this one, it goes down to this one, or, and then or this one, and whichever one you pick, it goes on to another one, different things like that. So that the one that's on my website is the only one that I've really gotten in depth on doing, because it's very time consuming and tedious, and trying to figure out, because you have to have all the questions, and then you have to have who picks what answer and how many points that goes towards giving which answer. And so it can be very time consuming, but it was a lot of fun to create the game. And I think a lot of readers really enjoy it. I plan to make the game a little bit more in depth, give it more broad answers, because there's so many characters in Winter's Rise and in the world that I've created for it. So I want to give more options for you to be able to get more in depth with the different characters. But right now, that's where I have it at. So. And Lexi, by the way, is one of my favorite characters.
Yes, I win by default.
Yes.
I want to talk a little about Once Upon Academy. So that's your anthology. You conducted that, and I find it interesting that a lot of proud anthology owners, say that's a different world and they have their concept, but I haven't heard of anyone who has created a website for it, has created a newsletter for it, and I want to know more about that concept. I want to know more about that anthology. Can you talk us through it a little?
Originally, I kind of I got excited for Once Upon Academy and just jumped headfirst into it. I wanted something that was fairy tales, your traditional fairy tales, but all kind of fairy tales. And I wanted to put them into an academy setting. So I thought, well, Descendants, but I didn't want it to be, obviously Disney Descendants kind of thing. So I got with a bunch of authors, and originally had a ton of authors in it, and have kind of fine-tuned it as we went. But I wanted to go big with it, go big or go home kind of thing. I didn't want to just create an anthology and one year you push it and be done with it kind of thing. I really wanted to create, again, a world for readers to be able to dive into. So we worked with a couple of authors, like I said, and we created this world little by little and just kind of expanded on my original idea and made it into what it is today. And I knew from the start, though, that I wanted, like I said, I wanted it to be a world for readers to get into, not just with the book, but to be able to get into all year round and in different aspects with games and things like that to keep you involved. So that's why I have, like I said, a website for it and a newsletter. And there's also, like, if you pre-ordered, then you can send that to the email, because it has its own email now. And you get a welcome packet to the school that has your acceptance letter and a school map and like your course list that you can choose from, like your student applying to go to Once Upon Academy. And we have big plans actually for Once Upon Academy to grow it even bigger and make the world more in depth for readers to get into and have fun with all year round, not just, like I said, with the stories, but through games and posts and the characters and the students of Once Upon Academy.
That is cool. Well, if you need another author, like, I guess, I don't know, I'd really like that. That's a really cool concept, though. I love that. So yeah, if you need anyone.
Thank you. Well, I will definitely be reaching out. And probably this year we're not going to be inviting any new authors, just because, like I said, we have some big changes planned for Once Upon Academy, but to implement those changes is going to take a lot of getting all the legal stuff and aspect first. So it'll probably be another year, and then we're going to start inviting new authors into it, either through the anthology or possibly a shared world or something like that. So I will be reaching out.
So how did family and friends react to when you told them you were going to be an author? I guess it was really no surprise to anyone. But outside of your husband and your mother, how did friends, what did friends say?
A lot of people were actually very surprised when I decided to become an author because, like I said, I hated reading growing up and writing and anything to do with that. My dad, who was very supportive, but also was like, really? You? Are you sure? And once they realized, I guess, that, I'm not the person that I was when I was a kid and struggling, that I have grown in that aspect specifically, then it makes sense to them. And they're like, oh, you have that creative mind, and it makes sense for me to go in that direction. But like I said, being a kid and being as outspoken as I was and hating reading and writing, especially my family, was very surprised, but they were all super encouraging and supportive, and even family that I hardly know or talk to very much, because the majority of my family is very long distance from me, so I didn't grow up knowing most of them. Even they were all very supportive and bought my books and things like that. So
did you do anything big for your debut release?
I did. For my very first release, I did an online party for it, but I also did a party here at my house. Not this house, it was before we moved here, but with like the locals that come into our bar every day that know us really well, and celebrated in that way. And my friend Elizabeth actually ended up surprising me. I didn't think she was going to be able to make it to my personal party, and she ended up showing up last minute. So that was a really awesome surprise.
What's the most surprising thing that you found in the publishing industry?
I think the most surprising thing that I have found is how really connected everybody is, and how small of a world it is. There's hundreds and hundreds of authors out there, but they all seem to know each other in one way or another. We know someone who knows this person over here that we know, and things like that. It's a very small world, but it's also a very friendly world, which is one of the things that I love about the author community, is that it's not like a regular business where this business over here is your competition. You know what I mean? You can be friends with another author, and they will support you and share your books, and you know what I mean? And I love that about the author community. But it was very surprising to me, because most times in business, that's not how it works.
So true. I think it was probably the first few months. I was 19 when I published my first book, so I was a baby. And
Oh, wow.
I remember clicking publish, and then the next day I was like, that's so weird. I haven't sold like 1 million copies. I don't understand why. And then a lot of it, I had no marketing initially. And so I think that was the biggest lesson for me, was realizing everything else you had to take on board. But what surprised me was when I got a couple of months into it, and then I did start meeting other authors and such, and got onto the Facebook world originally, how much was available to me, how many people there was. And that's where I met my my PA, Julia Summers, and it just like, she really expanded my mind, because I was like, do people really do this? Is this okay? And she's like, all the time, like, this is the world we're in, and it is a beautiful thing.
It is. It absolutely is. And it's still, every day it shocks me when, someone new reaches out, and I have one friend I haven't talked to in a long time in the author community, and recently just started reaching out, just getting back into it herself, and was like, hey, I noticed that, you don't have very many reviews. Let me help you. Here's some advice. And I was just, it's mind-blowing sometimes, but it's amazing how welcoming everyone is and willing to share knowledge and help one out. And it's beautiful. It amazes me every day.
What do you find the most distracting thing to be when you're writing?
I don't find too much distracting. I'm one of those people that I zero in when I'm doing something, whether it's writing or watching a movie or even on a phone call, I zoom in. My husband can come right here and be like, hey, I'm going to go to the grocery store. And I'd be like, fine. And then 20 minutes later, I'm going, where's my husband? Where did he go? And I'll call him and be like, where did you go? And he's like, to the grocery store. I told you. I'll have no idea. I completely focus in on what I'm doing, and I will tune the rest of the world out.
What are your 3 top tips for marketing? Do you have a secret formula?
I would say invest in yourself 100%. I see a lot of new authors jump into it and not necessarily invest in their cover or their editing, and it shows, and readers will see that, and it's going to make it harder to sell your book. I would say invest in yourself, and pick out your marketing plan before you decide to put it out, and say, this is important for me to invest in to be successful, or to get the success that I want, and pick and choose what is the most important to you to invest that money into, and definitely invest the money into it. Especially, like I said, things like editing. Don't edit your books yourself. As much as I can read through my books, I can read through them 100 times and I will miss 1,000 things because I'm the writer. And so I can see it in my mind. I see it there, but it's not really there. Invest in an editor. Make sure someone else who knows what they're doing is going through your books. Invest in a cover, because that's the first thing your reader sees is the cover, and that'll make or break the sale. But regardless of what people say about whether they judge a book by its cover or not, everybody does to some level. You have to, because you're looking at 100 books. How do you pick which one? You're going to pick by that cover initially. So invest in those kind of things. Invest in yourself. Like I said, if this is something that you want to do as a career, then have the faith in yourself and the courage in yourself to invest your money into that, because it really does make such a difference, and it helps so much, and it will take you a lot further than if you jump into this expecting to not spend the money or not put the work into it. Even when you don't invest, you're not going to go as far. But when you put the work into it and you put the money behind it and you work towards what you want and you have that goal clear in sight, you're more likely to get there, I feel like. And that's my opinion. It's what's worked for me.
What's your goal? What's the dream? What are you chasing?
My goal, and it's gonna sound a little bit silly, I want to buy a little office. I want to be making enough money as an author that I can buy or rent, a little office in downtown Savannah that I can get up and get dressed and go to every day, and hire someone to work there with me and organize it for me and keep me up on my schedule. That's my goal. It's a little bit silly maybe to some people, but and there's no like money number that I want to get to, or I never want to be necessarily famous or anything like that. But I want to own an office. I want to make enough money that I can own my own office in downtown Savannah, which is not cheap. So it's going to take me time to get there.
That's a good goal though. And I love too that you've already thought about that you want somebody there to organize everything for you. That's business sense as well, which is something that I love about you, because you're very business minded around this all, which a lot of people, because we are creatives, a lot of people struggle with the business sense of it. So it's really refreshing talking to you, and you're just so hands-on with both aspects.
Oh, thank you. I really try. I'm not going to lie. The business aspect terrifies me. But I've always had a head for business. That's part of when I did go to school. I did minor in business. And I feel like with anything like that, you have to have some sort of a logical or, business mindset to it. As much as I love to be creative, creativity doesn't, pay the bills kind of thing. So you have to find balance with anything in your life, I feel like.
So I have a couple of little quirky questions at the end, so we get to know you a little bit better. So question one is, what's the weirdest thing that you've ever seen?
I've seen a lot of weird things, but I would say recently, one of the weirdest things I saw was there was a lady, at Walmart right now, they have an extra person standing outside that's kind of directing you which side to go in, Well, the lady sitting there had someone else who had a mask on, but she had her mask moved down to her neck. and she had her hands on the woman's legs, and the woman, you could see, was like leaning as far back as she could from this woman and looked incredibly uncomfortable. And she had her hands on this legs, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs to praise her from the Lord and to heal her leg and might take it, her pain away. I mean, just raging loud, and was going on and on. And you could tell that it was making that woman so uncomfortable that I didn't even know how to like react to this. Like, I'm watching this, and there's, obviously people coming in and out of Walmart watching this going, what is she doing? And it was hilariously horrifying all at the same time.
These are the stories I love to hear from Walmart. This is a Walmart story through and through.
Yes, 100%. You see the craziest things at Walmart.
What's the best song that describes you?
This is probably one of the questions that was the hardest for me to think about. I genuinely can't picture a single song that would describe me. The first thing that pops into my head is Barbie Girl, because I'm very pink and girly and bubbly and that kind of aspect. But when you actually think about the song, it doesn't fit me at all. So I genuinely, I don't know. I do know, though, I have the perfect song that fits my Winter's Rise book. Is actually Lindsay Sterling does her own version of Carol of the Bells, and that the video and the song that she does, it fits it to a T. But for me specifically, I have no idea.
Who's your favorite author to follow?
I have so many. I would have to probably say, though, Stacey Hart. I actually have her books right. Where are they? Right here. I have the whole set right here of all of her books that I have. And I love following her online, though she moved out of the country now, so I can't get her swag or signed copies as easily as you used to, which kind of is a bummer. But I absolutely love following her. She does a lot of her and her friend Candy. They kind of work a lot together. But they do a lot of like videos of advice for authors and things like that, and how to grow your business. And I absolutely love watching the both of them and watching their profiles, and they just seem like they have such glamorous lives that it's beautiful to watch. What's
something that you are horrendous at? No matter how many times you try, you just can't get it.
I'm a lot of a jack of all trades. I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm not, great at very many. Probably I would have to say singing is something that I just suck at. No amount of research or trying or practice will ever make me a singer, though it's also not going to stop me from singing. So that would be, I guess, my best guess on that one.
If you could have any magical power, what would it be?
I wouldn't want to be like Harry Potter. I'm greedy. I don't want any one single thing. I would want the ability to manipulate the world around me and kind of have different aspects of power, I guess, if that makes sense.
What do you have that's upcoming? Anything that you want to tell viewers? Where do we check you out? Where do we get your books? Give us a spiel.
I just had the Once Upon Academy anthology come out, which is still very new. It just came out April 29th. So it is still very new, and you can still get the welcome packet if you email your proof of purchase to onceuponacademyantho@gmail.com. You can find me. I'm all over social media. I'm Instagram, on Facebook, Snapchat, everywhere, except for I don't Twitter. I have a Twitter, but I hate Twitter. So I try, but it doesn't get there. But pretty much just Breezy Jones is anywhere and everywhere. My website is Breezy J Author. As for books, I hope to have the second book in the Winter series out soon, Winter's Rebel. But I don't know when that will be exactly. I'd planned to have it out originally this past December, and with everything going on with my other books, I just wasn't able to write it. So I'm hoping to have that one out this summer for everyone.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. You've been an absolute delight, and I love you to bits. You're honestly an amazing person, and I can't wait to read more on your books.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so glad to finally get to kind of see you in person because that's really awesome. Thank you. I've very much enjoyed being here.